Rev up your engines!
Well, Chevy Bolt owners are going to get money from a class action lawsuit because of the faulty batteries that they had in them, right? Now, it's a $150 million class action settlement against GM. People had bad batteries, they had to replace them, they were inconvenienced, right? Now, people get a check of up to $1,400. The batteries are faulty, right? And these are electric cars. But if people sold their Bolt or terminated leases before 2023, they get a $700 check. All the inconvenience or crap they had to go through and the peanut money that they get out for each car. But they sold quite a few of them, so that's $150 million for GM that they got to flush down the toilet. Now, these were LG-made batteries, if you remember. A bunch of them started on fire. And this is on top of what they've already paid because the original recall, where they had to replace the batteries, cost GM $2 billion. Cost them $2 billion before. Now, this is another $150 million, you know. Add insult to injury to GM, right? It just shows that they don't know what they're doing building these electric cars. They make crap. They're losing money. You got a car with a battery that might start on fire, right? A bunch of them did. It's like a lose-lose for everybody. But they keep pushing forward, you know. Dead from the neck up, the corporations are, you know. They jump on a bandwagon. Hey, the wheels fall off the bandwagon. Where's the new bandwagon? Okay, there's the new band. Let's jump on that one. Well, old Elon Musk lies are coming back to haunt him. Now, Tesla's full self-driving tech that they keep saying is around the corner, there's a class action lawsuit against it, and the judge is letting it go ahead. Elon Musk saying that it's a bunch of lies. Full self-driving, of course it is, and I know how they're even allowed to say that. It'd be like saying, well, we have an invisible car. You can see it, but we have an invisible car. A judge just dismissed Elon's bid to stop the class action lawsuit. The lawsuit says Elon tricked people into believing their vehicles would soon have self-driving capabilities. They don't. The system that they have is only level 2, and level 4 is full self-driving. So they're not even close. People paid extra for it, and hey, this all started from a 2016 video that Tesla did, where they said, functional, full self-driving is just around the corner. Well, it isn't. That was 8 years ago. They still don't have it. As the lawyer for the class action suit said, if Tesla meant to convey that its hardware was sufficient to reach full automation, it plainly is sufficient falsity. And they want people to get their money back. And of course, there's federal probes into Tesla. Was this fraud? Saying that, hey, he promised stuff that never was out there. Interstate commerce, there's laws for that the feds can do. So you can only lie for so long, and then the baloney's gone, the rubber hits the road, and then you see, here's what happens. Just like with this Cybertruck, right? Now it's out there, it doesn't go off-road very well, it gets stuck in the sand on beaches, they're breaking down, the sharp edges are cutting people. You have to go at some point in time and stop saying, well, Tesla's worth so much money because that's the future. Well, at some point in time, the future becomes now. If the products you sell aren't any good, guess what? You're going to eventually fail. You can only fool a certain amount of people, a certain amount of time, then they wise up. I'll give you an analogy. Fiat, when they started selling those Fiat 500 clunkers in the United States, the second year or so they sold in the United States, they sold like 55,000 of them. Then go a few years ahead, they pulled the Fiat 500 out in the United States. They didn't sell it anymore. And the last year they sold like 50 of them or something, right? Because people wised up. Oh, it's a cute little car. Oh, it's a pile of junk. It falls apart, right? I had a guy who bought one for his daughter to go to college, and she got 300 miles, the engine blew up. Eventually, people wise up to this nonsense. And in this case, hey, they're being sued in court over the full self-driving stuff. And hey, they'll probably end up winning because it's not. How they could even call it that is beyond me. Falsity in advertisement, I guess. I laugh at this one. Kia's testing an electric pickup truck that looks like a Ford Lightning 150, the electric Ford pickup truck that's a massive failure. As I say, you know, the Asians are copying us. Well, here they're making a mistake. They're copying a failed design. Lightning electric pickup truck is a massive failure, right? So maybe they're just copying our failures. Doesn't make much sense to me, but, you know, a lot of times copying, they don't look at the overall picture. I remember a guy telling me ages ago when I was young, Americans used to sell their wrecked cars to people in Japan. They were fixed and they ship them and sell them, right? So one time, a guy's looking at a Japanese car and he was taking it apart. He said, how come you lose this lead in your car's fenders and stuff? And he said, what you do in your cars? You got lead in your fenders. Well, the only reason there was lead in the fenders, because back in the day, before fiberglass and aluminum and stuff, lead melted at a pretty low temperature. They would fix the smashed car using lead because it's easy to work with and then paint it, right? So they thought that we originally built them, boy, didn't realize that we were sending our junk or wrecked cars that were fixed with lead. But it showed that they just copied it because the ones that they bought were that way, and they thought, this is how the Americans make them. Now, this was a long time ago, not today by any stretch of imagination, but still, it shows. The Asians are copying even mistakes. You would make an electric pickup. You wouldn't want to copy a Lightning. That's probably be the worst thing you could possibly copy. Ford just took an F-150, turned it into an electric pickup, and it doesn't have range. It can pull a lot of heavy stuff, but not for very long. Less than 100 miles, it'll run out of electricity. You wouldn't want to copy a failure. Well, here's something that might surprise you. Mercedes-Benz workers in Alabama rejected becoming part of the United Auto Workers. They had a vote, and they voted against unionizing. I gotta say one thing, though. Couldn't care less myself. I'm not going to buy a Mercedes. I advise people not to. I have had customers buy Mercedes that were made in Alabama and the quality was garbage. You want a Mercedes. If you want to spend that kind of money and get one that actually works, get one that's made in Stuttgart. Get a German-made one. Don't get the ones made over here because they don't do such a hot job. Whether they unionize or not is immaterial to me. I'm not going to buy one. I tell people not to buy them. And the ones that I've seen made in Alabama, the quality's garbage. Ask any real honest mechanic who actually works on the things. And I'll tell you, the quality of the ones in Germany are well above the ones they're making in Alabama. They don't paint them right. They have electrical failure. I did that video last year on one the guy brought me. He paid 140-something grand for his car and had all these problems. And it was brand new. So, hey, I don't care one way or the other. I find it kind of interesting that they rejected the UAW. They didn't want to join the union. I guess they didn't want to pay the union dues and all that stuff. Hey, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Mercedes-Benz is kind of clinging on by the skin of their teeth, just like Rolls-Royce. They never made much money selling cars after World War II. They made airplanes, motors and stuff, right? They split the company off later, and of course the airplane motor company's making a fortune, right? But the car, hey, now they're owned by BMW. Not even an English company anymore. So, building German cars in Alabama, quality isn't that good anyways. Does anybody really care except for a few snobs who are dumb enough to buy the things? Here's something you never expected to see. A giant, flat, 8-cylinder motorcycle made by the Chinese. It's called the Great Walls 8-cylinder Suo motorcycle. Now, it's a boxer design. It's 4 cylinders on one side, 4 cylinders on the other. So it's like a Porsche 911 with 2 cylinders added. They're 6, these are 8s, right? Big, giant, heavy motorcycle. And here's the interesting thing in China. A lot of roads, you're not even allowed to ride motorcycles on because of their law. So many of the highways, you can't drive a motorcycle. And many of them have just a low speed limit for motorcycles, like 50 miles an hour. But I gotta say, it's an interesting idea. Big old V8 engine. Now, it's gotta have tiny pistons because it's a 8-cylinder boxer, 4 on one side, 4 on the other, but it's only 2-liter displacement. So they got to be tiny. Sheesh, American V8 motors, the big ones, they're like 6 liter, 6.6 liter. This is only 2 liters. They have tiny little pistons, right? And the interesting thing is, it's an automatic transmission, but it's an 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission, so it shifts just like a standard, only it's done by computer. So it's a very high-tech motorcycle. You don't have to learn how to shift gears, but on the other hand, if you don't know how to control a motorcycle, I don't advise getting on this monstrosity with 8 cylinders and take off. You'll probably run into a tree. And if you do get one and it falls over, unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger in his younger days, you're not going to be able to pick it up because it weighs 882 pounds. So why did they make this crazy motorcycle? Well, because the guy who runs the company likes motorcycles. He said, hey, let's make this funky motorcycle, all right? So he went out and built it. Just like that one Chrysler made with the big 10-cylinder engine. It had 2 wheels in the front, 2 wheels in the back. You could barely drive it. I think somebody drove it in a straight line once or something, but you never see them riding down the road. They'd be on. You couldn't handle those. At least this is a real motorcycle with 2 wheels, not this crazy 12-cylinder Chrysler one that had 2 little wheels in the front, 2 wheels in the back, could just stand by itself. That was just plain stupidity. But why did they build it? Because they could, and they wanted to say, oh God, we have this crazy motorcycle with a V10 motor in it. But now the Chinese, I guess, are becoming Americanized. They're making crazy stuff themselves. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.